Yes, I sold my Omega Speedmaster, but before you kill me in the comments, I do love the watch, and I'm going to talk through what about it I really enjoyed and why I sold it. Welcome to Wrist Swap. My name is Harrison. The Omega Speedmaster is a watch that I really enjoyed. When I bought it, it was a little bit of a spur of the moment. I knew I always wanted a Speedmaster, but I kind of bought it because, you know, I was there. It seemed like the watch that I knew I was going to get at some point, and so I wanted to have it and see how I felt about it. And the answer is that I loved it. I love the Speedmaster, and it is my wife's favorite watch I have ever owned. And that's a lot to do with the design, what it looks like when it's on your wrist, how it can be on a number of straps and is always classic. It's always got this really cool, subtle, but yet interesting appearance to it. So all that's great, right? Why did I sell it then? And the reason came down to the fact that I don't want to own 50 Omega Speedmasters. I don't want to own 100 of them. I'm not going to be the guy that collects one watch in many different variations, at least not at this point in my life. Maybe eventually, and I could see the Speedmaster being the model that I do that on, especially with the different variations with the Ultraman and the Speedy Tuesday and the Snoopy, and you know, they're different enough. But in terms of the basic Moonwatch, I think I need to figure out exactly which one is perfect for me and just have that. And so that's what I'm going to talk through, what my thoughts are on the 3861 Hess-Lite that I owned and what I'm looking for now as I kind of change my attitude on what Speedmaster I want in my collection. The Speedmaster is a watch that is very classic and a lot of people own it. And there are so many different variations that it's sometimes hard to muddle through them all and figure out what's the right one for you. You've got from basically the late 50s until now of Omega Speedmasters. Either they're the non-professional, the professional versions, the Moonwatch versions, plus all the limited editions, plus the automatic versions. You've got so many choices that finding one that fits exactly what you want is almost impossible. So I owned the Speedy Reduced, the first version of the Speedy Reduced, with the Hess-Lite crystal, with the numerals, the 55 and like almost pilot style numerals on the outside. And I really enjoyed it. The wearing experience was great. The lyre lugs I fell in love with. The overall kind of marker layout with those straight markers painted on. I just really enjoyed it, and I felt inspired when I had it. And so I ended up getting the Professional. I got the 3861 Hess-Lite version. I made a video about it, and it was my favorite watch that I wore for a year straight. I wore it almost every single day for a year. I rarely took it off, and I never liked taking it off. I had to force myself to wear my other watches. But what happened was I started getting different watches in. I started this channel, and I started bringing in all these different watches, and I started really liking this, and I started really liking that, and so I stopped wearing it as much. And so it allowed me to pause and start to think about how it fit into my overall collection. And I'll do a collection video here very shortly talking about the current state of the collection, but I essentially ended up aggregating too many daily drivers. I had too many watches that were watches that I could wear every single day and were versatile and were, you know, perfect and had great water resistance. And so I kind of started thinking about, okay, if I have an Omega Speedmaster, does it need to be the modern version with the updated movement and the 50-meter water resistance? Do I need to have that? Does it need to have the Hess-Lite crystal, or should it have the sapphire version? Do I want rather an Ed White with a ceramic bezel and the sapphire crystal with a 321 caliber movement? Do I want a vintage one with a 321 movement, or a vintage one that's got kind of that brown, cool-looking chocolate dial on some of the 861s? So I started looking at vintage Omega Speedmasters, and I was interested but trepidatious. And I would say the thing that really pushed me over the edge was my wife's Omega that came in. And I haven't made a video about that, I know. So it was a bumper 50s Omega that was kind of gold plated, and it really looked cool. And it reignited my interest in vintage. And so I have another one that came in that I'll do both a repair video and I'll shoot it in my watch collection video. But I had another vintage watch come in, and I remember looking at it and thinking, this is what it's all about. And no harm against modern watches. I have modern watches. Almost all of my current collection is modern watches. But when I was looking at it, I thought this would be really fun to wear. Not on a daily basis because it's not water resistant and it's a little bit more delicate, but a watch, if I'm going to wear it and really just like extract every bit of enjoyment out of it, the vintage version of the Speedmaster seemed like the right fit for me. because I already had my modern base. Between my Explorer, Explorer 2, and my Pelagos, I didn't need another modern Speedmaster. So instead of getting like the Sapphire version with the applied logo and the see-through 3861, I decided I wanted a vintage one. And I specifically was considering either a very early 861 or 321. And that's kind of the conundrum I'm in right now. And I also considered buying one that was broken so that I could fix it myself and kind of really get to know the movement inside and that kind of romantic appeal of that. So that's kind of where I'm at right now. And I sold the 3861 because, not because I think it's, not the perfect daily watch, not because I don't think that the Speedmaster is potentially the most iconic watch that people and Iconics used a lot for a lot of watches, but one of, if not the most iconic watch in existence right now. It has a perfect interest. It's not so subtle that it gets boring. It's just enough. And, the prices are a little, we can have a whole conversation about whether or not it's worth different prices, because they've raised the prices from the late 90s to now substantially on the Speedmaster. But the watch itself is interesting, and the background of the watch is interesting, and the different options I have in vintage are interesting. And so that's where I'm at right now. I will be buying another Speedmaster. I will have one in the collection. It will likely be an old one, and maybe I'll fix it up myself. Maybe it'll be an 861 that I fix up myself. Maybe it'll be a 321 way down the line that I do either fix myself or, watch a watchmaker fix. Who knows? But that's where I'm at right now. The Speedmaster is still a great watch if you're looking for a daily driver and you're looking for the same kind of watch that you want to wear every day because you don't have that already covered in other watches, or you just like having only modern ones, then it's the way to go. And you can watch my other video talking about that. The caveat there being, really consider between the Sapphire and the Hesalite. I bought the Hesalite for the romance of it, but I gotta tell you, I think I got a little sick of the fact that I had to keep buffing it out. I wore it in the warehouse so much that I had to buff it out almost every other week because I would scratch it up with different screws or shelving, because that's just the nature of the job that I'm in. And so that got really bothersome for me. So I think if I had to do it over again, if I was buying a modern daily driver, I probably would go the Sapphire version with the see-through case back. But then again, it doesn't have the same kind of romantic appeal as the Hesalite. So depends on your daily life and what you wear and that sort of thing. Either way, that option's up to you. Those are my thoughts on the Speedmaster and why I sold mine and my overall situation in the Speedmaster line. I didn't want to do a collection video and not address this first. So expect a collection video coming. I've got a few other videos coming, but till then, I'll see you guys in the next one. Take care.